You poured your heart, your savings, into a dream they didn't share. They took your kindness and left you in the quiet luxury, a silent witness to your own heartbreak. But sometimes the quietest hearts hold the loudest resolve, and when they walked away, they left behind the one thing you needed to make your move. The game had just begun, a perfect plan, a grand gesture. Then, a silence that echoed louder than any scream. Elara's heart pounded with a mix of excitement and anticipation as they stepped into the opulent lobby of the Lumina. She'd meticulously planned every detail of this weekend getaway for Malachi, Serafina, and herself, hoping it would reignite a spark that felt recently dimmed. "Can you believe this view?" she exclaimed, gesturing towards the panoramic city skyline visible through the grand windows. Malachi offered a distracted nod, already checking his phone, while Serafina fussed with her. After a quick check-in, they rode the elevator in strained silence up to their penthouse suite, a space Elara had spared no expense on. Once inside, Malachi suddenly announced, "Look, Sarah and I have to grab something from a friend's place. Be back in a bit, okay?" Serafina avoided Elara's gaze, echoing his words vaguely. Elara's smile faltered, a knot forming in her stomach, but she tried to brush it off. "Okay, sure. Don't be too long. I thought we could order room service." They were gone before she could finish her sentence, leaving Elara alone amidst the lavish decor, the silence of the suite pressing in on her. Hours bled into a long, agonizing evening. Elara paced the plush carpets of the suite, the untouched room service menu a cruel reminder of her abandoned plans. She called Malachi's phone repeatedly. It went straight to voicemail. Serafina's number did the same. Each unanswered call chipped away at her initial concern, replacing it with a cold, hard certainty. "They're not coming back, are they?" She whispered to the empty room, her voice barely a tremor. A knock on the door made her jump. It was a hotel concierge, politely inquiring, "Ms. Thorne, is everything all right? We haven't received your dinner order, and your companions haven't been seen since this afternoon." Elara managed a tight, strained smile. "Everything's fine, thank you, just a change of plans." As the door closed, her composure shattered. The realization hit her with full force. They had used her, taken advantage of her generosity, and left her to deal with the hefty bill she'd already settled for their shared luxury. A cold fury began to simmer beneath her heartbreak. She walked over to her elegant banking app. With a newfound clarity, Elara began to meticulously review her past interactions with Malachi and Serafina. She remembered casual conversations, forgotten passwords, shared online accounts for bookings and subscriptions they never truly paid for. Her fingers flew across her laptop keyboard, a grim determination set in her jaw. She found an old shared cloud account, dormant for months, where Malachi had carelessly left sensitive documents for a fledgling business venture they had once discussed. "You think you're so clever," she muttered, a ghost of a bitter laugh escaping her lips. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the principle, the blatant disrespect. She accessed the documents, her heart racing as she confirmed the extent of their financial vulnerability. It was a precise surgical strike, not intended to ruin, but to send a clear message. She drafted a succinct anonymous email, attaching a strategically redacted file that would halt their current business dealings and expose their deceit to potential investors. She hesitated for a moment, her finger hovering over the send button. Then, with a deep breath, she pressed it. "This is for every promise," she whispered, "for every lie." The email was sent, a point of no return. Elara closed her laptop, the click echoing loudly in the silent suite. A strange mix of exhilaration and emptiness washed over her. She walked to the window, gazing at the city lights that twinkled like distant, indifferent stars. A notification pinged on her phone. It was an anonymous message from an unknown number, a single screenshot of a panicked group chat between Malachi and Serafina, frantic about a sudden, inexplicable technical glitch that had locked them out of their business accounts. The message also contained an urgent appointment cancellation notice from a major investor. Elara felt a grim satisfaction, a fleeting vindication, but it was quickly overshadowed by a profound sense of isolation. She had made her move, and it had landed precisely as intended. But now what? The luxurious suite, once a symbol of shared dreams, felt like a gilded cage. She knew this was just the beginning. Their reaction, the fallout, was yet to come. The city hummed below, oblivious to the quiet storm she had unleashed, and the one that now brewed within her. Malachi's phone vibrated incessantly, the screen flashing with angry messages and missed calls from their investor. He hurled it onto the plush hotel bed, the soft landing doing little to absorb his rising fury. "This is insane, Sarah. 1 minute everything's set, the next our accounts are frozen, and Mr. Davies is pulling out." Serafina, her face pale, clutched her head. "I don't understand. It was working fine yesterday. Did you mess something up?" Malachi glared at her, his voice tight with barely suppressed rage. "Me? I've been meticulous. This has to be external. Someone is trying to sabotage us." He paced the cramped hotel room, a stark contrast to the luxurious suite they had abandoned Elara in. "Serafina's, could it be Elara?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Malachi scoffed. "Elara, don't be ridiculous. She wouldn't know how to do any of this, let alone have a reason." But the question hung heavy in the air, a silent accusation. The morning after, Elara found herself in a quiet corner of a bustling urban cafe, the scent of freshly brewed coffee a comforting anchor. She scrolled through news headlines, trying to distract herself, but her mind kept replaying the events of the previous night. A strange mix of relief and unease settled within her. The immediate satisfaction of her retaliation had waned, replaced by a hollow ache. Was this truly justice or just another form of betrayal? She ordered another latte, the warmth of the mug offering a small comfort against the chill of her thoughts. The anonymous message from the previous night replayed in her mind, the panicked chat. She knew she had made her point, but the cost to her own peace of mind felt substantial. "This isn't who I am," she murmured, stirring her coffee. But then a flicker of resolve returned. Or maybe it is who I need to be now. Days turned into a tense week. Malachi and Serafina were holed up in Malachi's small apartment, the air thick with tension and recrimination. Their attempts to salvage their business were failing, investors had vanished, and their bank accounts were still mysteriously frozen. "We're losing everything, Malachi. What are we going to do?" Serafina wailed, pacing the worn carpet. Malachi, unshaven and stressed, slammed his fist on the table. "I don't know. It's like someone specifically targeted us." He stared at his phone, a desperate idea forming. Maybe Elara can help. She's always been good with tech stuff, remember? And she's got that money. Serafina stopped, hurt. "You think she'd even talk to us after what we did?" Malachi hesitated, then forced a confident smirk. "She's too kind, too forgiving. A simple apology, a grand gesture. She'll come around. She always does." He began drafting a message, his fingers trembling slightly. Elara was at her apartment, trying to immerse herself in a new coding project, when her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. It was a long, flowery text message, signed by both Malachi and Serafina, filled with effusive apologies and pleas for help. They claimed a terrible misunderstanding and spoke of a catastrophic technical issue that had left them stranded. They even mentioned the luxurious hotel suite, expressing regret for their sudden departure, hinting they would make it up to her. Elara read through it once, then again, a slow, cold smile spreading across her face. The audacity was breathtaking. They had no idea she was the architect of their current misfortune, yet they sought her out, leveraging her past kindness. She stared at the message, then at her reflection in the dark screen of her laptop. This wasn't about an anonymous strike anymore. This was a chance to face them directly, to make them understand the true cost of their deceit. She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "You want to talk? Let's talk." Elara chose a quiet corner booth in a sophisticated minimalist cafe, arriving early to observe. When Malachi and Serafina finally walked in, their faces etched with a mix of practiced concern and underlying desperation, Elara simply offered a small, cool smile. Malachi immediately launched into an elaborate apology, his words flowing smoothly, almost rehearsed. Serafina, usually so poised, fidgeted with her purse, avoiding Elara's direct gaze. "Elara, we are so incredibly sorry about the hotel," Malachi began, his voice laced with false sincerity. "There was an urgent family emergency, completely unforeseen. We tried to call, but our phones died." Elara's smile remained, but she merely nodded, gesturing for them to sit. I understand unforeseen circumstances, she replied, her voice calm, almost too calm. She watched them settle, already dissecting their body language, the slight tremor in Serafina's hand, the way Malachi couldn't quite meet her gaze for more than a second. The air thickened with unspoken truths, each sip of her coffee a silent testament to her unwavering resolve. An urgent family emergency, Elara repeated, her tone even. That lasted for days, and completely disconnected you from all communication. Malachi exchanged a quick, nervous glance with Serafina. It was complicated, Elara, he stammered. We were in a remote area, no signal. And then, everything just spiraled with our business. It's been a nightmare. Serafina chimed in, her voice wavering. We just need your help, Elara. You're so good with systems, with troubleshooting. Our accounts, our investor meetings, everything's gone haywire. Elara took another slow sip of her coffee, her gaze unwavering as she looked from one to the other. It sounds like a very specific kind of haywire, she observed, a subtle emphasis on specific. Almost as if someone knew exactly where to hit, didn't it? Tell me, what exactly happened with those encrypted files you mentioned? The ones for Mr. Davies's investment? A flicker of panic crossed Malachi's face. Serafina visibly stiffened, her hand reaching for Malachi's arm. But he shrugged her off. Elara leaned back, a silent challenge in her. Because from what I recall, you were quite careful with those. Unless someone wasn't as careful as they thought. Malachi cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. Elara, we genuinely don't know what you're talking about with encrypted files. It's just a general system error. But you're right. You're the only one we trust with this kind of thing. He forced a hopeful smile. Please just help us fix it. We'll pay you back, whatever it takes. Elara met his gaze, then Serafina's, allowing a beat of silence to hang heavy in the air. I might be able to help, she finally said, her voice measured. But on one condition. We need to be completely transparent, Elara continued, her words precise. Every account, every password, every detail of this business venture laid out for me to examine. And I mean everything, no secrets, because if there are any hidden vulnerabilities, I need to know them to secure your systems properly. Malachi and Serafina exchanged a worried glance, their initial relief draining away. The silence stretched, filled only by the distant hum of the cafe. After a tense moment, Malachi finally nodded, a forced smile on his face. Of course, Elara, complete transparency. We have nothing to hide. Serafina echoed his sentiment, They spent the next hour sharing access details, grudgingly handing over passwords and account information, under Elara's watchful eye. Back in her apartment, Elara began her meticulous work, sifting through their digital lives. The initial business accounts were exactly as she'd left them, locked and exposed. But then, delving deeper into a shared cloud storage Malachi had given her access to, she stumbled upon something else entirely. It wasn't business-related. It was a folder labeled Future Plans, filled with documents. Blueprints for a luxurious lakeside property, detailed financial projections for a life abroad, and, devastatingly, an engagement ring receipt dated weeks before the hotel incident, with Serafina's name on it. A cold dread seeped into Elara's bones. This wasn't just about money or business. This was about a life they had planned together, a betrayal far more profound and personal than she had ever imagined. A future built entirely on lies while she was just a convenient stepping stone. Her breath caught in her throat, the glowing screen illuminating her horrified face, revealing the depth of their deceit. The glowing screen of her laptop cast a stark light on Elara's face, reflecting the horror that had begun to bloom in her chest. The engagement ring receipt, dated weeks before the hotel incident, was a cruel, undeniable truth. Each line item a fresh stab. It wasn't just about the business, or the money, or even the abandoned hotel suite. This was a calculated, intimate betrayal of a friendship and a future she had genuinely believed in. The blueprints for the lakeside property, the life abroad. It was all a shared dream they had discussed, one she now realized they had meticulously planned without her, using her as a pawn. Her breath hitched, a silent sob catching in her throat as the cold realization settled. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate, prolonged deception. A tear traced a path down her cheek, quickly followed by another. But they were tears not of sadness, but of a profound, chilling fury. The generous heart she once prided herself on now felt like a raw, exposed nerve, hardening with an icy resolve. Hours later, the apartment felt suffocating. Elara had tried to immerse herself in work, but the images of the engagement receipt and the future plans folder kept flashing in her mind. Her phone buzzed, a text from Malachi. "Hey, just checking in. Any luck with the system? We're really in a bind here." Another message quickly followed from Serafina. "Praying you can work your magic. Elara, this whole situation is stressing us out so much." Elara stared at the messages, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. Their feigned concern, their desperate pleas for help, now seemed utterly grotesque in light of her discovery. She typed a quick, composed reply, "Making progress. It's more complex than anticipated. I'll need some additional information to fully secure everything. Specifically, any personal accounts linked to financial planning for future investments." She knew this would unnerve them, forcing them to reveal more, unknowingly digging their own hole deeper. The game had changed, and she was no longer just protecting herself. She was meticulously planning their unmasking. With the new information, Elara felt a renewed, cold clarity. She needed to approach this with surgical precision, not emotional outbursts. She spent the next day consolidating her evidence, cross-referencing dates, and silently piecing together the timeline of their deceit. Every casual conversation about their future, every shared dream, now twisted into a calculated deception. She sent another message to Malachi and Serafina, requesting a face-to-face meeting. "I've made significant headway," she wrote, "but I need to discuss a few anomalies I've uncovered. It's critical we meet to go over these details in person. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., at the Apex Bistro. This time, I'll be sending you the account of my services beforehand." Her fingers flew across the keyboard, drafting a detailed invoice for her consulting services, including a hefty sum for emotional distress, carefully worded to avoid legal pitfalls, but leave no doubt about her intentions. This wasn't just about financial recovery. It was about reclaiming her narrative and making them acknowledge the full extent of their lies. The next day, Elara arrived at the Apex Bistro, a quiet yet upscale restaurant before them. Malachi and Serafina walked in moments later, their expressions a mix of apprehension and manufactured smiles. They looked slightly more put together than before, a facade for the public eye. As they settled into the booth, Malachi immediately tried to steer the conversation to business, praising her progress. "Elara, we can't thank you enough," he began. "This whole situation has been a nightmare. We're so grateful for your expertise." Elara held up a hand, a cool smile gracing her lips. "Before we discuss the anomalies I found in your business accounts, there's something else. I believe it's pertinent to our conversation about future plans." She paused, letting her words hang in the air, watching their faces for any flicker of recognition. Then, with deliberate slowness, she pulled out her smartphone and placed it on the table, face down, but with a corner of the engagement ring receipt clearly visible. Malachi's instructed composure shattering in an instant. The silence that followed was deafening, heavy with the weight of Elara's unspoken accusation. Elara's smartphone lay face down on the table, a sliver of the engagement ring receipt mocking Malachi and Serafina. Malachi's jaw went slack, Serafina gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. A silent scream caught in her throat. The carefully constructed facade of concern and gratitude they had presented moments earlier evaporated, replaced by raw panic. What is that?" Malachi stammered, his voice barely a whisper, his gaze darting between the phone and Elara's calm, observant face. Elara simply watched them, allowing the heavy silence to amplify their discomfort. "It appears to be a receipt," she stated, her voice devoid of emotion, "for an engagement ring, purchased a few weeks ago by Serafina." The accusation hung in the air, undeniable and devastating. Serafina's. Malachi's face contorted in a desperate attempt to regain control, but his usual charisma was nowhere to be found. The elegant bistro, once a symbol of their false professional front, now felt like a tribunal. Malachi finally found his voice, a desperate attempt to bluff. Elara, this is a misunderstanding. You're jumping to conclusions. Serafina nodded vigorously, tears streaming down her face. It's not what you think. We can explain. Elara slowly picked up her phone, turning it to reveal the full receipt, then swiped to a photo of the lakeside property blueprints. Is it also a misunderstanding that these blueprints, for a property you extensively discussed as our future home, are in a folder labeled Future Plans on a shared drive, alongside detailed financial projections for a life abroad? For you two? Her voice remained steady, cutting through their frantic denials. She paused, letting the implications sink in, and that these plans were meticulously laid out, weeks before you abandoned me at a hotel suite I paid for, leaving me with the bill, while you were already planning your escape. The air crackled with the weight of her words. Malachi's posture slumped, the color draining from his face. Serafina began to sob openly, the picture of a caught culprit. Elara's gaze was piercing, leaving no room for further deceit. You snooped through our private files? Malachi snarled, suddenly shifting to anger, attempting to turn the tables. You violated our trust. This is illegal. Serafina dabbed at her. How could you, Elara? After everything, to spy on us like this? Elara chuckled, a low, humorless sound. Violated your trust? After you left me to rot in a suite? I paid for, concocting a flimsy story about a family emergency while planning your luxurious escape together? After you used my generosity, my connections, and my trust to fund your entire fraudulent venture? She leaned forward, I merely examined the vulnerabilities you so graciously asked me to fix, and in doing so, I found a much deeper, more personal vulnerability, your complete lack of integrity. The weight of her words pressed down on them. Malachi recoiled, his face pale. Serafina looked away, unable to meet Elara's unwavering gaze, their accusations now sounding hollow and pathetic. Elara took a deep breath, her voice dropping to a dangerously calm level. Now, about those anomalies in your business accounts. The ones that miraculously appeared right after you left me alone, facing a mountain of debt you orchestrated. She watched their faces, the dawning comprehension slowly replacing their lingering defiance. Malachi's... Serafina let out a small, strangled cry, finally understanding the true extent of Elara's power and retribution. I didn't just stumble upon your secrets, Malachi. I created the technical glitches. I exposed your deceit to your investors. I meticulously dismantled the fraudulent empire you were building on the backs of unsuspecting people, including me. She pushed the invoice across the table, a crisp, official document. This is a bill for my services, a substantial fee for uncovering fraud, recovering my funds, and for the immense emotional distress your betrayal caused. Consider it your final payment for the life you tried to steal from me. Malachi stared at the invoice, then at Elara, his face a mask of utter devastation. His grandiose plans shattered into 1,000 pieces by the woman he had so carelessly discarded. The silence was absolute, a final, crushing blow. Malachi and Serafina sat stunned, the invoice a stark monument to their ruined plans. The grand dreams of a lakeside property, the life abroad, all crumbled under the weight of Elara's calm, precise vengeance. Malachi finally looked up, his... What? What do you want us to do? He croaked, the bravado utterly gone. Serafina buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Elara watched them, a profound stillness within her. The anger was still there, a cold ember, but it was now mixed with a quiet satisfaction, a sense of having balanced the scales. You will pay every cent listed on that invoice, Elara stated, her voice steady. And you will dismantle any remaining fraudulent schemes. Beyond that, I want you to understand the true cost of your actions. Not just financially, but ethically, personally. She stood up, her movement fluid, graceful. This is not a negotiation. It is a reckoning, and it is done. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving them amidst the shattered fragments of their deceit. Weeks turned into months. Elara, now free from the emotional entanglement, poured her energy into her own ventures. She started a small tech consulting firm, her sharp mind and newfound resolve proving to be her greatest assets. The news of Malachi and Serafina's downfall occasionally reached her. Their business utterly collapsed, their personal assets seized to cover debts and legal fees. They were, she heard, struggling to rebuild their lives, facing the harsh realities of their choices. Sometimes, a fleeting pang of something akin to pity would surface, quickly replaced by the memory of the cold sweet in the engagement receipt. She realized that justice, while often painful, had brought her a profound sense of liberation. She was no longer the generous, easily exploited Elara. She was stronger, wiser, and fiercely protective of her own worth. One crisp autumn afternoon, Elara was walking through a bustling park, enjoying the vibrant foliage. She stopped to admire a street artist's work when she saw them. Malachi, looking gaunt and working at a small, unassuming coffee cart, his usual swagger replaced by a weary stoop. Serafina sat nearby on a park bench, her once elegant braids now unkempt, scrolling listlessly on an old phone. There was no anger, no accusation, just a shared understanding of how far they had fallen and how much Elara had risen. Malachi offered a small, hesitant nod, a silent acknowledgement of their past and its grim resolution. Elara simply gave a faint, almost imperceptible smile, not of triumph, but of peace. She had won, not by destroying them, but by refusing to let them destroy her. Elara continued to build her life, not defined by the betrayal, but by her resilience. She discovered a deeper joy in genuine connections, in friends who truly valued her, and in a fulfilling career she forged on her own terms. The incident had been a harsh lesson, but it had also been a crucible, refining her spirit. She occasionally thought of Malachi and Serafina, not with malice, but as distant figures from a past life, reminders of the strength she possessed. Her generous heart, once wounded, had healed, wiser and more discerning. She learned to trust again, but with a keen awareness of boundaries and self-worth. Her future was bright, built on a foundation of integrity and self-respect, a testament to her journey from abandonment to empowerment. Thank you for joining Elara on her journey. If you enjoyed this series, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more compelling dramas, and hit the notification bell.